Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining Encore Palm Beach County for our monthly Zoom event. Today's topic is creating new work after 50. We have two very energetic and interesting women sharing with us today. I will introduce you and start you with the founder and chair of Encore Palm Beach County, Rosemary Nixon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Let me introduce Debbie Wemyss. Debbie is owner and founder of DW Consulting Solutions, a LinkedIn specialist and digital marketing consultant. And I asked Debbie to meet with me today because she and I had a great conversation about a year ago about our experiences of finding new work after 50. And I thought it would be useful for others to do a replay of that conversation. You remember that, Debbie? We laughed a lot, really.
Oh, yeah, it went on a lot longer than 45 minutes.
That's true. We had a lot to share. So today, new work can be many different things. It's not just finding a full-time job. It could be finding a part-time job or a self-employment gig, like becoming an Uber driver or companion to an elderly person, a work-at-home employee or contractor, an entrepreneur, or even unpaid work as a volunteer. So Debbie, you created new work by becoming an entrepreneur 10 years ago. Would you share with us that journey of how you went from being an employee to being unemployed to becoming an entrepreneur?
Okay, I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version. Thank you for the opportunity, Rosemary and Christine. I love to share my story. I just celebrated my 11th year in business, and it still doesn't seem real to me, but I was in the nonprofit world for 23 years, all in Palm Beach County. Loved every nonprofit I worked with. I'm still a huge supporter of the Palm Beach Zoo, and I still donate to Susan G. Komen. And I miss Ballet Florida a lot. But I was always in marketing, media, and PR. And basically, I love people. And I've been a networker since I joke around, but I've probably been a networker since I was about 12 years old. I'm the kid that had the lemonade stand, sold the Girl Scout cookies, knocked on doors. And I was the Avon lady that actually rang the doorbell and, Avon calling. It goes way back. That kind of stuck with me. It has, that's kind of been in my DNA. So I was in a scenario at 57 where I lost my job, at the nonprofit I was with at the time. Which wasn't entirely unexpected. It was just a scenario that people find themselves in, and it's not by your choice, and things happen. So I was 57, divorced, 2 kids in college. Fortunately, that was prepaid for them, thank goodness. But I had to find something to do. And I was very stubborn. At that point, after 23 years, I was ready to be an executive director. And that's what I went after. And it took me over 100 resumes, literally, and almost 9 months of insisting that I could do this job, I could find another job. And I was in my comfort zone, and that's what kept me there. And that's why it took me so long to realize it was the crash of 2008. Nobody was hiring. Nonprofits of all were cutting back. And I needed to face the reality that I needed to do something else. So that was my first challenge, getting out of my comfort zone and trying to figure out what the heck am I going to do, because I was also running out of money. And that's a real motivator. When you start to run out of money, you really start to pay attention to, what do you have left and how long can you do this lack of work trip that I'm on. So I was with monthly meetings with CareerSource at the time, and they were called Workforce Alliance back then. And there was a career counselor that gave me an exercise that I did, and it kind of changed my whole course of direction. And to this day, when I'm working with people that are in transition, they're not quite sure what they want to do next, they have a lot of transferable skills, and maybe another big part of it, which I'm convinced this is always a big part of it. People are fearful of taking a risk of doing something different. And this woman, and I'm still in touch with her today, told me to take yellow line paper, not this size, but the big one, and make 2 lists. Get a list of all your expertise, everything you can do, everything. And you also include soft skills like communication and networking and, you know, all the different things you can do from your past careers. And the other list is everything that makes you happy, everything that puts a smile on your face. Because her whole point was twofold. Number one, I was 57, now I was going on 58, unemployed. And she said, you really don't want to jump into a job just to have a job and then become miserable and find yourself in the same scenario again. She meant well, but I was running out of money. I needed to do something. And I made those lists up, and she put them side by side. And the part that, the list where you mention everything that makes you happy, it's everything. It's work related, it's family related, it's hobbies, it's pets, it's anything that makes you happy. And the whole point was matching up skills that I had to things that put a smile on my face. And it took her, I'll never forget it, because I had been struggling for months. And she looked at me and she said, after about 15 minutes, well, you need to be a coach. I was like, what? That was the furthest thing from my mind. But I'm telling you now, I would not be doing what I'm doing today had she not made that suggestion. Now the challenge was, okay, what am I going to coach? I had no interest in being a business coach or a life coach. Those are the first 2 things she mentioned. So then I had to kind of think about it. Well, all that time, I was getting into LinkedIn as a job seeker. And that's how I discovered LinkedIn. And this is going back, actually, this is going back almost 13, 14 years ago. So anyway, I heard it was a great site for job seekers. I had lots of time. I wasn't working. My kids were in college, and I dove in, and I really became enamored with the idea of networking online, finding people that you can connect with on a business level, and then meet them at a coffee event, a networking event, a luncheon at the chamber, whatever. Get face-to-face with these people, but start from home on your computer. You know, what could be easier? I loved the whole idea. So I started to learn how the back end of it works, what it takes to get connected to people that you need to be connected to, and then how to leverage your network for jobs. So my whole thing in the first couple of years with LinkedIn was all about job seeking and teaching people of any age how to use the site for finding jobs, getting in front of hiring managers. I had to do 2 things. I had to get over my fear of being a business owner. I was terrified. Never done anything like that. It was my 4 older siblings. Of course, they're all successfully retired. You know, my 4 older siblings were like, just do it. You know, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. You know, that's a phrase that I've heard often through my life. And it's true. If you don't get out and try it, you're not going to know what's possible. The other thing I had to do was get used to charging people for my services, because in the beginning, I would meet people at Starbucks, we'd buy coffee, and I'd yak away for an hour or so and show them all kinds of stuff. I never thought of it as a business. It was fun for me. And I was learning more because every time they asked me a question, if I didn't know the answer, that sent me running to LinkedIn's, you know, resources to get the answers. And then one of my older sisters said, when are you going to stop making this a hobby and start charging for your service? Because you have a valued bit of expertise to pass on to people. So that part, from the time I thought about doing it as a business and being a LinkedIn coach or specialist to the time I actually started charging for my time, it was about 4 months. It took me a long time to take that jump. So I do tell people now, just take time to make those lists. I pass that tip on to anybody that's in transition that we work with. And my other 2 coaches do the same thing. And time again, people will come back to us that have done that 2-list exercise, and they'll say, I never thought of this, that, or the other thing. And, it gives people a little bit of additional insight to what they could be doing that would actually be satisfying for them. So, and I can talk forever, Rosemary, but I'm going to stop there.
Okay. Well, that whole experience from point A to today, what do you think you've learned from all that you think people need to know about finding new work? The most important things.
Honestly, some people aren't going to want to hear this. You cannot expect other people to put you in your next job. You need to have the wherewithal and the motivation to know that you are able to find work. It's out there, but you need to put some effort in to do the legwork to find those opportunities. There are lots and lots of resources, and Encore Palm Beach is one of them. You all have a fabulous website with all kinds of links, but people have to push those buttons. Go to those links, go to those resources, and the other thing that's super important: don't stop networking. For months, I went to every morning networking event, everything free. Free became a very important word to me. And there's still lots of free networking out there. Breakfast events, or a lot of times they'll just meet at not necessarily Starbucks, but I know of several organizations that meet in the morning. I know some that meet for lunches. I know some that meet for happy hour. You don't have to spend a lot of money, but you need to keep your face out there and be meeting people. And I did that for weeks. I would stand up to do my 30-second or 60-second pitch, and I'd say, hey, I'm Debbie Wemyss, and I've got 23 years of nonprofit work in marketing, media, PR. I don't have a clue what I'm doing next, but I want to be out and meeting people, and that's why I'm here. And that's pretty much exactly what I said. So people got familiar with seeing me, and they got familiar with what I had done. And you start meeting people. And every time you meet somebody new, of course, for me, I'm going to tell everybody, go right to LinkedIn, connect, with that person and blow up your network in a good way. But even if you're not using LinkedIn, you need to keep your face out there, and so that people know who you are. They don't forget you, and they know what you do, and they might keep you in mind the next time they have a conversation with someone. Networking is so much bigger than just going to an event and meeting new people. It goes much further than that. And that is why I love LinkedIn. It's layers and layers of people who know people who know people. And I've been on there now for 14 years. I've been in business for a little over 11. I put people together pretty often because I've built a network that's global, and we've worked with all kinds of industries and so forth. And we do a lot of overviews on the site so that people know what they can do with it. And it all starts on the free membership, and we love keeping people on that free membership. Most job seekers can do what they need to do without a paid membership on this site. So
Thank you for that, Debbie, because I think a lot of people don't know that. I think they may feel that LinkedIn is an expensive tool, and I didn't actually realize that you could really accomplish most of what you want to accomplish with a free subscription. The whole networking thing, I think many people could use a lot of coaching around that. The thing about LinkedIn is it is a way to meet people that are not in your current personal network, new people. And of course, the last few years with COVID has made it very difficult for people to go to in-person stuff, but that's all in the past. Everything is open now. In fact, there's so much going on, you can barely keep up with it. So people do need to be out there. I personally am a big believer in personal networking. But one of the things I have discovered is that a lot of people either had jobs that didn't really expand their network, or their personal life was so limited for whatever reason between job and family and so forth, they haven't developed a lot of personal contacts. And the other thing, I've met a number of people who are moved to Florida and didn't have work or raise a family or go to school or anything down here. And to develop contacts has been a little bit of a challenge for them. And if they live in an over 55 community, that's not terribly helpful because most of those people are not looking for work or not working. And so they're kind of stranded. But when you talk about networking, it takes something called, and we've talked about this, it takes something called confidence. And would you want to say more about the confidence thing, Debbie? Because my observation is a lot of people do not have confidence for whatever reasons.
Sure. I was not always the way I am today. It does take a little bit of, you got to get over your nerves. I know so many people that were really, really terrified of standing up at a coffee networking meeting and saying anything, talking about themselves. Most people are not fond of doing that. I think what really helps is to find someone that already does that type of networking, whatever it might be, and be their guest at their next event. We're always encouraging people, professionals that we interact with, to, when you connect with people on LinkedIn, invite those new connections to the next local networking event that you're going to, and make it your whole point to introduce that person around to everybody you can. That's one of the best things you can do as an icebreaker. There's hardly any event that I go to now, hardly any event where I'm not meeting at least one person that I have not met face-to-face from LinkedIn. The other thing, before I forget though, for resources, there's so much available online. I'm always an advocate of the local chambers, all of them. They all have events that are open to the public. They're usually well run in general. And the other resource that a lot of times people don't think of, your local house of worship, whatever you choose. A lot of times they will have events going on. And this ties into volunteering. There's a ton of stuff coming up because it's fall, the craft shows, the holiday gift shows. There's going to be so many opportunities to be a volunteer. As you volunteer, you're going to meet people. And I say this all the time, you never know who knows who.
Absolutely.
Your next new work is going to come from somebody that that knew you were looking, that knew of your skill set. it's really important to stay out there, stay connected, keep trying to make new friends, new connections.
That's the other good thing about LinkedIn is that you don't have to actually be out there going to things, although that is the best thing to do. It is a way of connecting with people that you might not connect with otherwise. Do you have workshops, Debbie, on how to effectively do that on LinkedIn?
Well, there's an idea.
You mean you don't?
You know what? I used to, when I was building my business, I still have the partnership with Kaiser University. They are one of 5 colleges that we partner with. And back when I was doing workshops, they would give me their computer lab at night when it was available, and I could have my workshops there. And in return, I would go in every quarter and do a lecture to the students on how to get set up on LinkedIn for job seeking when they graduate, before they graduated. And that was a great partnership. And then we started getting into annual national conferences, and my schedule got crazy with travel and very, very big events that, a couple of team members would go to with me, and we just got too busy. No, I actually love that idea. I'm getting something together now for some folks in Wellington. Thank you, Eduardo. And I'm putting together something on the same lines of, I'm not sure if we're going to call it a workshop, but Rosemary, I love that you reminded me of that.
Well, Debbie, now that we all have Zoom, 3 years ago, that would have been a chore. You would have had to have a place and people come and so forth. Now we just do a Zoom thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that could be very valuable. I will tell you my observation after working with people for a number of years. Most people are not good at it. I'll just leave it at that. So tell me, do you have any other observations about the job seekers that you have met that you think people need to be reminded of or think about?
Don't underestimate the power of having your resume reviewed if it's been a while. And for most job seekers that are over 50, it's been a while. Things have changed, and there's all kinds of technology involved now with scanning resumes prior to gaining an interview. Have your resume reviewed. We have a couple of people that we refer out that will initially give some sort of a complimentary review, and then it goes from there, depending on what's needed. Resumes are a necessary evil. I'm just going to put it out there. When you do get a resume the way you want it, whether it's on your own or hopefully with some help, some guidance from a professional, be careful about putting that out. I'm just going to speak about LinkedIn. We do not advocate uploading a resume to LinkedIn for one reason. Every time you apply for a job, it's a pain in the neck, but you have to go in and change out some of the keywords, often called core competencies or expertise, whatever that section is on your resume, where you list a few things that you're really, really good at that you want everybody to know about. When you apply for a job, you need to look at that ad and make sure some of the words from their ad are in your resume. And if you don't take the time to do that swap out every time, that scanning software that they use could very well skip over you. And you might be the best candidate out there, and they're not going to see you because you didn't take the time to put the right keywords in your resume. That would be one of my biggest tips. And I've seen it all with resumes. Don't put your picture on your resume. Don't try to get fancy with color fonts and all. That can cause you more negative results than positive. So yeah, resumes are super important. And there's a great feature on LinkedIn now that they just introduced about a year ago, and it's called, it's under the Jobs tab at the top of the screen on LinkedIn, and on the left margin, it's called Job Prep. And there's two things under there. They'll actually help you with your resume, give you some pointers, but the best thing is you can practice video interviews all by yourself. It's between you and LinkedIn. And in 10, 15 minutes after you take a question, get your thoughts together, you take 2 minutes and record it right on your screen. And about 10 or 15 minutes later, they will give you a little report. How many times your eyes went away from the camera? How many times you said, right. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. And it's available for free. It's a wonderful tool because a lot of interviews are done this way now. And if you're not used to that, that can be unnerving because you're talking to a little hole on your monitor and a lot of times you can't see the other person that's asking you questions.
Okay, well, that's excellent advice. Apart from that, resume business, what else do you see that job seekers do wrong?
Well, first thing that comes to mind is a virtual interview and not being dressed properly. And I hear that from a lot of HR managers.
Wow.
You need to behave exactly as you would if you were in person. You need to dress the part. You need to be on time. That's the other thing. You know, COVID introduced a lot of things. And all of a sudden, there's so many people working from home or kind of stuck at home, doing things online. A lot of people from the waist down started getting very relaxed, you know, about wearing jammies to the meetings and things. And you just have to be careful. You really need to be professional. And the other thing is, do your research. When you do have an interview, bless you, you know, that's great. Do some research on the company. There's lots of information available online. And if you know who's interviewing you, look them up. Just Google their name. Chances are good their LinkedIn URL profile is going to come up first. Certainly all HR managers are on LinkedIn, and you can read about them ahead of time. The more you know about the company, and if possible, the person interviewing you, the better prepared you can be with the type of questions you want to ask, because even over 50, you know, it's completely appropriate for you kind of to be interviewing the company. You know, you want to find out who you're going to be working for. You know, just do your research.
That's an excellent point, Debbie. I think that some people find being interviewed so intimidating, or they're so anxious about it, that they forget that the interview should actually be viewed as a conversation, not an interrogation, which I think is what maybe some HR people aren't very good at that. They conduct it as if it was an interrogation, but you can seize the responsibility for the interviewing also by being focused on what you want to know and what you want to accomplish and what information you need. And I think a lot of people don't do that. I think they are so nervous and concerned that they forget that. It should be an exchange of information.
Right. There's one more thing that just came to mind that I think is really important. Very, very often, whoever's interviewing you, they might be significantly younger. And one of the things that you need to portray to that person is that you are a flexible professional who is able to take direction from somebody half your age. You know, that's really important because experience is a double-sided sword. to me anyway, when you're over 50 looking for a job, okay, yes, you've got years of experience that the younger applicants don't have. And no one can take that away from you. So you want to come across as having experience and the ability to bring value to that company without making them think you're going to take over. It's a real thing. It is definitely a real thing. So I think making sure that you portray yourself as a learner, a constant learner. You don't know it all. None of us do. We always should be open to learning new things, but you need to impact them with the idea that you've got great experience, you have value to offer that company, you work well with others, and you take direction well. I think those are some really important points when you're a mature job applicant.
I think a lot of people go into the interview concerned about potential age discrimination, and they kind of sabotage themselves in advance. They get a mindset that this is going to be, a minefield, and get anxious about it, when if they just focus on what it is they have to offer, they might be better off, because that's what people are looking for. What have you got that we need? It's very simple.
Mm-hmm. The thing that mature workers have to keep in mind, you've got to find something that is going to keep you motivated to look at every opportunity as a new opportunity. Whatever you experienced with an interview yesterday or last week, whatever sidetracked your confidence, let it go. You have to learn to let that go and start every opportunity, every job application. It is a new opportunity. That is, to me, aside from running out of money, that is the hardest thing of job seeking at any age, is constant rejection, or worse, constant ghosting. You go through the application, you go through the interview, you think you might have nailed it, and you hear crickets. You don't hear anything back. That is so frustrating. It is something everybody experiences. And I learned the law of attraction when I was unemployed, because I had lots of time. And it's based on a belief that you become what you think about. You draw things to you as your thoughts go out there. Whatever you think about, you bring about. Everyone's heard these phrases, you are what you think. Make your thoughts good ones. It's all true. It's just getting into that practice is very, very different for most people. We're not raised that way. We're just not. At least in this country, we're raised with actions and consequences, and we're raised to be reactive. And trust me, you're hearing from somebody that's going to be 70 in December. And it took me some real practice to let go of those old tapes. But I totally encourage people. You can get it from the library. You can get it online. It's called The Secret. And it's actually based on the Old Testament. And I'm telling you, it literally, I will say, it changed my life, because even now I still find it hard. It's not automatic to think that way. But if I go into a day, well, without fail, I end every day. The last thing on my mind is how I want tomorrow to play out. And the first thing on my mind when I wake up is gratitude. Before my feet hit the floor, I give thanks, and I'm grateful for all kinds of things. And if you can end your day being grateful and looking forward to the next day in a very positive fashion, and then you can wake up and not pick up your phone, don't run to turn the coffee on, just take a couple of minutes. It doesn't take long. I'm telling you, that's one of the best habits that I learned. And now I do it every day. And, you know, the best example, you know, if you wake up and you stub your toe on the way to the bathroom or whatever, and all of a sudden it's like you drop your coffee cup, you know, 10 minutes later, and then somebody reminds you of something that's not a very pleasant thought. All of a sudden you're snowballing into all this negative stuff that starts happening, and you can stop all that. You can stop it, you know. I've had a lot of practice with this with my two daughters, 30 and 32. The 30-year-old gets it. I'm still working on the 32-year-old because, oh man, she can get into whining about one thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, da, da, da. I'm like, Wendy, stop. Listen to yourself. What do you think you're going to attract by all that complaining? You're going to attract more stuff to complain about. It's really, really true. It's really true. And again, not easy, but if people can learn to think differently and let stuff go that you can't control, you just got to let it go. I know how frustrating it is. I still run into things just like everybody else, but I've learned not to react the way I always used to. I stop and I think about it and it's gone. Move on.
You're very fortunate to have that exposure to that wisdom. I will say that speaking for myself, I guess, you know, everybody's made differently. And some people just tend to be more positive than others for whatever reasons, whatever happened in their lives growing up and so forth. For some reason, people who know me know I have a saying, I swim in a sea of possibility. In other words, I really believe in possibility, that there are all kinds of things out there. I just need to bop around and find them and believe that they're there. And it has worked very well for me. So I'd like to share the experience I had finding new work. And this goes back to 1983. I wasn't 50 years old, I will admit, but it was a formative experience in finding new work that has served me well over the years since. Back then, I was executive director of the YWCA in Hartford, Connecticut. And after 5 years of raising money for the organization and all those things that you do for a nonprofit, I decided I wanted to move into the for-profit arena. I figured, okay, I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I could get paid more for my skills and experience. So I hired a career coach. And that's what, you know, I didn't know about all these things that you're talking about, Debbie. We didn't have LinkedIn and we didn't have the internet, by the way, back in 1983, or online job boards or nothing. And so I just happened to bump into a person who was a career coach, and she worked with me to do exactly what you just talked about, to identify those skills and experience that I had developed over the years and what I enjoyed doing. And so, you know, when I saw that, then my focus was not creating a resume and putting it online. There was no such thing back then. And I wasn't really interested in fitting into somebody else's box as an employee. She encouraged me to do personal networking, which was the only way back then. And I read Richard Bowles' book, which was the Bible for personal networking. I recommend it. It's called What Color is Your Parachute? Mm-hmm. It's been reprinted 100 times. He said back in 1983 that 86% of new jobs are found through personal networking. And if you listen to people like Carrie Hansen, Chris Farrell and others, they'll tell you it's still true today. Personal networking is the key to finding work that may not even be advertised. To me, a job on Indeed, that's an advertisement, that's a box. They want somebody to fit into the box. But what I was coached on with personal networking was to identify those transferable skills and just meet for coffee with my personal contacts. I started with 5 people and I simply met with them and I said, who do you know? This is what I've done and this is the skills I have and this is what I'd like to do. Who do you know that would be interested in talking with me? I wasn't asking anybody for a job. I wasn't asking, do you know of a job? Who do you work for? All I said was, who do you know that might be interested in talking with me? And through that process, I met with hiring personnel from Massachusetts down to Philadelphia. I mean, I was willing to make a change also of location. And I met with people in hospital administration. I met with people in education, higher education. I met with people in business. I even was interviewed for a job with the Democratic National Committee in Washington. All were job opportunities that on my own, I would never have thought of. It was just simply the people that I was talking to listened to me and said, well, maybe you should talk to Joe or Mary. And I would not leave. That's what you call information interviewing. You're gathering information. I would not leave one of those meetings without the names of 5 other people I should talk to. I tell you, I talked to so many people and it was a wonderful experience. I recommend it highly, even in this day and age. The process led me to a job in commercial lending for banks in Connecticut. And that's what I did for the next 10 years. And I had to learn new skills. Talk about learning new skills. I went from a job in which I had a big corner office and my own private bathroom to being a grunt in the credit department of a bank with all these other people learning how to do analysis of business, companies' financials under a taskmaster who would whip us to get so much done and to learn how to do it right. It was me and one other woman in a room full of men. And it was so stressful. We would go to the ladies' room and we would cry, but we made it through. And I ended up getting a job as vice president of commercial lending for Colonial Bank in Waterbury, Connecticut. Then I went with Union Trust and another one. And then when I moved to Florida, I ended up going with Dean Witter in investments and insurance. And by the way, I had to learn all about investments and insurance. That was not my strength. My strength was commercial finance. And then I went with Ameriprise. That process resulted in 25 years of work in the financial field, none of which I had really planned on. And one thing just led to another. So what I learned from that experience is that personal networking can take you in new directions if you're open to learning something new, and you can make the case, and this gets back to that self-assessment that you did of how what you have done translates into the new arena. And sometimes you have to learn how to describe how it's similar. Do you know what I mean? So for instance, when I was doing fundraising for the Y, what is that? You go out and you ask people to give you money. Same thing in commercial lending. You go out and you ask people to borrow money. Same thing, just it looks a little different. And so, when I learned how to explain how this is like that, sometimes you need to be able to do that for people. Have you had that? Do you understand what I'm saying, Debbie?
Sure, absolutely.
I call it translation.
You're reframing something.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And oftentimes when we work with people that are, in transition, well, one of the things that we do ask every client is for their top 12 keywords or phrases. And keywords are always applicable to your expertise. And particularly if you're in transition and you have a background like you just described, Rosemary, where you have a lot of different skills that you've picked up over the years. It's amazing to me how many applicants really don't sit down and realize, you could do this for a different industry. You did fundraising, you might want to go into banking. It would be the furthest thing from my mind, but that's the whole idea, is taking advantage of your expertise and opening your mind to other possibilities on how you can use those different skills, maybe in a different industry. LinkedIn's got 142 industries. And I have an alpha listing because it's too hard to get into LinkedIn and try to, they don't set it up properly to make it easy to look at that whole list. We have an alpha list. I'm happy to email that to you, Rosemary, and you can do what you want with it. But sometimes it's helpful to look at a list of different industries. Again, thinking about what you've done. Oh, maybe I could do this over here in this industry. Hospitality, that's another big one. Bartending, waitressing, being a hostess for a restaurant or a motel. There's so many skills involved with those jobs that you can do for another company. Yeah, I mean, once you really start thinking about it and how transferable skills can be, it does open up some possibilities.
So Debbie, we're getting up to 10 minutes of 1, and we want to allow time for questions. But what do you want people to know about what DW Consulting and LinkedIn can do for people?
I'm a believer in LinkedIn because of how it's grown. It'll be 20 years old next year. And what we do is make the site easy to understand and quick to get on and off, do what you need to do. All of our training is customized. We work with all levels of experience. If you don't yet have a profile on LinkedIn, we will help you from the beginning. Most people do have a presence on there, and we just go in and work with them, and that's key. We work with our clients. We do not do things for them and then send it back and say, here you go.
Right.
Because we get to know our clients and their strengths and what their goals are. And we love what we do.
And you do charge a fee for that, right?
Absolutely. I do hope to retire someday.
Of course, this is not a hobby.
but we have free resources too. Anyone can go to our website. We have 2 or 3 free downloads that'll help you with LinkedIn tips. We are known now for our half-hour free webinars. Almost every month. We have one at the end of November on the 30th. And you just gave me an idea that I'm going to convince my coworkers that we should do one in December about networking, how to network to get the year
the holidays.
Yeah. And I think that would be helpful. But our deal with our webinars is simple. If you register, and they're free, and they're always about 30 minutes, and oftentimes they come with reference documents. But if you register, you'll get the replay link and the documentation, whether you attend or not. We've become known for that. And we pick a different subject every month. actually, the one at the end of November, we just discussed and decided on yesterday. It's going to be about gratitude, but not just during the holidays. You know, everybody thinks about Thanksgiving and gratitude, and we've got some pretty clever stuff to share about how to carry that through the year. And that's our subject for the end of November, and then I'll put that other one for December together. And the other thing is we have a monthly newsletter that right now it goes out to about 12,000 people. And it's free, it's loaded with LinkedIn tips, and it also has a calendar of follow Debbie. It used to be where's Debbie, like where's Waldo? And it's a list of everything we're doing for the next 6 weeks, a lot of which is open to the public. And I do a lot of speaking engagements locally as well as conferences. So there's always something going on that people might be able to sit in on or Zoom on or, you know, get free information that way.
If you have information about the workshop in December, if you could get that to me before the end of November, I could perhaps get it into our December newsletter, which goes out the first week in December. People send me all kinds of good stuff, but it's usually after the newsletter has gone out.
Okay.
So what I want people to know, and I think most people know that Encore seeks to connect people over 50 with new work and volunteer opportunities. We have spent a good bit of time gathering links to staffing agencies, job boards like CareerSource, coaches, and the job portals for all the age-friendly employers here in Palm Beach County that we have identified from our Wisdom and Experience Awards event. We also have a link to DW Consulting. All of that is on our work resources page on our website. We didn't put that together just for our own enjoyment. It's there to help people who are looking for work. We're a volunteer organization. We have no staff. So when people get in touch with me, I sometimes get the impression that they think we're a staffing agency and that my job is to help them find a job. No, I ask them to go to our website and look at the work resources page, walk through, check out everything. And then if they need a little help to get back to me, I'm always amazed, Debbie, at the people who will call me and they tell me, oh, I heard that you help people get jobs. Okay. We don't get paid for doing anything. We're just trying to be an advocate and a connector to the resources that are available. And what horrifies me even more is when I tell them, have you been on, or I ask them, have you been on our website? And they say no. Would you ask somebody to help you when you hadn't even bothered to go to their website and learn a little something about them?
Yeah.
This passivity is something that has astonished me about people. I don't know whether they're just so inexperienced at finding work or so discouraged or what it is. But you said in the beginning, Debbie, you have to work at it. You have to put out the effort. Nobody's going to find it for you.
Very true.
So, you know, they need to do the work. Sometimes I do take on a coaching client from time to time. I don't have very much time for it. And somebody will say, well, I need help with this, that, the other thing. And I said, well, I charge $100 an hour for that. I can't afford that. I understand that they may not be able to afford it, but I don't work for nothing either. So, you know, I think people need to be a little realistic, and I think it was enormously helpful, Debbie, that you mentioned all those free resources. One thing you did you mention it? Did I miss it? You really got your big help from somebody at CareerSource, and the link to that is on our website too.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of people haven't checked that out. That is a free resource that is paid for by the government and a foundation to help people find work. And they haven't been there. So, you know, the old saying, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So at this point, I appreciate everything that you've shared with us, Debbie. Are there any questions in the chat, Christine, or anybody who would like to unmute themselves and ask a question?
There aren't any questions in the chat, but if you have one, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Debbie, you've always been so wonderful with so many of us. How can we help you?
Oh my goodness. You know, if you ever come across somebody that is having trouble job hunting, just give them my email, tell them to contact me. There's 3 of us that will happily spend 15 minutes on the phone with anyone to try to point them in the right direction. Yeah, thank you, Eduardo.
So
my feeling is mutual to you.
This information is on our website, was in our email address, but Debbie, would you like to just share your email address and the link to your website?
Sure. And now I see this is too far away. So the website is dwconsultingsolutions.com. My name is another matter. I do have it on screen there in the corner. It's Wemyss. It looks like Wemyss. It's a Scottish name. You know, I've dealt with it all my life. My email is debbie@dwconsultingsolutions.com. And of course, you can look me up on LinkedIn by my name. But we love to do 15-minute phone calls with anyone that wants a little guidance. If you have a LinkedIn profile, we will certainly give you a couple of tips to improve it right over the phone. Thank you.
Okay, and of course, our website is encorepbc.org, and our email address is encorepbc@gmail.com. Any other questions?
Carolyn had her hand up.
Thank you, Debbie. I want to compliment you and say kudos on being positive. I think that makes such a difference to our bodies, to our outlooks, and being grateful. My second job started at 55 and lasted 25 years. I just retired 2 years ago, and Encore, bless Rosemary, and their board have given me nonprofits to keep going here at this life care community. So I'm hoping that we can all find a tablet of how to live longer to accomplish all we want to achieve. But I salute you in your attitude and your presentation today. And thank you, Rosemary, for this.
Thank you,
Carolyn. Okay, well, Judy, I think Judy has her hand up.
Yeah, I do. I just have a question to you, Debbie, which hopefully you can answer real quick. Somebody was kind enough to set me up on LinkedIn. However, all the jobs I'm getting are from out of Mongolia, outside of the country. Is there a solution to that?
Yes, that would be something I can address pretty easily with a phone call.
Okay.
And I have, you know what, if you just shoot me an email, Judy, and in the meantime, I wrote down everybody's names that it's on the screen, and I'll connect with you on LinkedIn. And when we arrange a phone call, I'll give you some tips specific to conquering that.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that, but I've been living with it. But I would prefer to get something much more local.
A little closer.
Certainly.
To home. No, I'm glad you brought that up. I'll make sure I get in touch with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Christine.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay, I think we're done.
Any
Sure,
other
it's great to
questions
see
or
you too.
comments? Okay, thank you all for joining us. Please visit our website. We have lots of great things happening this month. Our Wisdom and Experience Award presentation is coming up on the 28th. Rosemary, you want to give us a quick recap on that?
Well, all the information is on our website on the page that's titled Wisdom and Experience Awards. This is our effort to identify age-friendly employers in Palm Beach County and to connect job seekers with them. These are all companies, businesses, government, nonprofits, all of whom are interested in connecting with mature workers, have mature workers in their among their employees, and are very supportive of them. Once again, go to our website and all the information is there, including a place to register to attend at the event, which is up at the
Airport Hilton.
Airport Hilton in West Palm on the 28th, a breakfast meeting. And as Debbie said, it's another networking opportunity, and with a bunch of people who are employers of one kind or another.
Yeah, the key to networking is to continue to follow up as well. I cannot tell you how many people grab cards and they do nothing with it. They just bring this many cards home, they put them away. So you need to follow up. It's so important.
Very true. Mm-hmm.
One other thing I'd like to say about that, that's the networking where you share cards, and a lot of people, they just come in, they pass out their card, they say something about themselves, but they don't take any time to find out anything about you. And just like the job interview or anything else, there should be a focus on the other person, what they need, what they're interested in, and maybe how you can help them. I used to do a lot more networking than I do now. And that was my observation, where people were happy to give you their card and tell you all about themselves, but they didn't care about hearing about you and what you do. They took your card, that was it, you know? I know nobody told me any of this, but 100 years ago, when people gave me a card, we didn't even have email. Honestly, I don't know how we all did anything back then. Didn't have email, but if I knew somebody was interested in something, I would literally send them an article that I read in the paper that I thought would be of interest to them. You know, today you could send an email and attach the article. A lot easier. But I mean, that is an indication that you're interested in them. And it's life and business and making things happen is a give and take. You give and then you maybe take. But you should be focused on your networking, on who are these people and is there something I can do for them?
And we're looking forward to Debbie's next networking workshop. So thank you all for joining us. Have a great rest of your day and happy Wednesday. Thank you.
And happy birthday, Christine. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Christine. Happy birthday to you. Nobody's going to hire me to sing happy birthday, I'm sure.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.